Again, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. My name is Matilda Reckford and I work for the Center for Applied Linguistics for the EHLS program, and I'm joined today by Dr. Kevin Gormley and by Dr. Suzanne Matilla.
Hello.
So during this webinar, we're going to talk about the English for Heritage Language Speakers program and what to expect during the academic program and after EHLS as you start fulfilling the service requirement. We have wonderful experts here today. Throughout the presentation, you can ask questions by typing them into the Q&A, and we will answer them during or after the presentation if we have time. So let me do a quick overview of the EHLS program before we dive in deeper. So EHLS program is a scholarship program with a focus on professional English communication skills and career skills. The program trains advanced speakers of English to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. It's hosted by Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Every scholar admitted to the program receives a full scholarship funded by the federal government. The program is 8 months in length. The first 6 months are full-time at the Georgetown University downtown campus, and the final 2 months are part-time and conducted online. Participants are native speakers of critical languages who come from diverse cultural, educational, and professional backgrounds, but they're all united by an interest and a commitment to public service. So let me give a little background on EHLS. So EHLS was established because critical languages are in high demand in the federal government. There are other government-sponsored programs that teach critical languages to native English speakers, but this is the only program that's designed to prepare individuals with native knowledge of critical languages for the federal workplace. And then a brief background on the history and the organization of the program. EHLS is a partnership between 4 organizations. The Defense Language National Security Education Office, DELENCIO, where Dr. Gormley works, provides funding. And the Center for Applied Linguistics, where I work, we oversee instruction and we coordinate language testing. Georgetown University, where Dr. Matula works, provides instruction. And the Institute of International Education oversees the application process. EHLS started in 2006, and 2025 will be our 20th program year, which is definitely a milestone of the program. So let's talk a little bit about the scholarship benefits and terms. So these scholarships are funded through the Defense Language National Security Education Office. Every scholarship provides full tuition for the 8-month academic program, in addition to a living stipend. That is $3,600 a month for the first 6 months of the program, and then $1,200 a month during the last 2 months of the program. For scholars that are moving from outside of the Washington, D.C. area, the funder, so DELENCIO, can reimburse relocation costs up to $1,000. Other benefits include health insurance through Georgetown University, and a certificate from Georgetown University upon successful completion of the program. And this certificate opens many doors, especially in the DC area. Scholars must agree to the terms that we have outlined here. So full-time attendance and successful completion of the academic program, agreement not to work during the full-time portion of the academic program, so the first 6 months, and acceptance of a service requirement after completing the academic program. And we'll talk about the service requirement in more detail in this presentation. Now, who is eligible for the program? So you must be a US citizen at the time of application. You must be a native speaker of one of the languages that is listed here, and you must have professional level in proficiency in that language. You must have advanced proficiency in English, and your proficiency in both your critical language and English will be tested as part of the application process, and we'll discuss that as well. And you must have a college degree that's at least a bachelor's degree. You must be able to use internet, word processing tools, and PowerPoint. And you must be able to commit to a full-time day program from January through June at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And you must be willing to work for the federal government for 1 year in a position with national security responsibilities. And it will be your responsibility to find that position. Now I'll pass it along to Dr. Matula.
Great. Thank you, Matilda. And hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to join you this afternoon and share a bit more about the program itself, the academic program, to talk about what you can expect during the 8 months that you are a student, a scholar in the EHLS program at Georgetown. I'd like to first start off by reiterating the goals of the program. And the goals of the program are multifaceted. First, our goal is to help scholars reach high-level proficiency in English in all aspects of English. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But this is not just a language program. We are also here to help develop key professional skills to help scholars be successful in federal government positions and also help them be successful in their job search process. And related to that, the third goal here is to help scholars develop an understanding of the federal job search process and the expectations for the government workplace culture. Next slide, please. Thank you. And as Matilda mentioned earlier, we do all of this through an eight-month program, starting in January and going all the way through the end of August. The first 6 months, January through the end of June, are in person here at the School for Continuing Studies of Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And the last 2 months, July and August, are online. Within each of these segments, we divide the program up into different sessions. You can see here session 1, session 2, session 3, and session 4. In between each session, you will see there is a 1-week break where there is no class scheduled. And because, as you can imagine, this is a very intensive program. I'm going to talk more about the contents of the program, the schedule, and the expectations. But at this point, I would like to draw your attention to these week-long breaks in between each session. These are times when we really encourage scholars to schedule appointments, doctors, dentists, other appointments, perhaps need to travel, perhaps other opportunities that would prevent scholars from being in class. I note this because within the program, we do not have excused absences. We do take attendance every class, every day, and in order to be in good standing in the program and to successfully complete the program, we do follow Georgetown University guidelines, which allows for 15% absences in the class. If a scholar exceeds that number of absences or the percentage of absences, that scholar is subject to not completing the course. So we really do encourage you to schedule appointments during the break times. The program concludes at the end of August with a graduation ceremony. And I just would like to add that attendance at that ceremony is mandatory, and this is in-person attendance, which is mandatory. Next slide, please. So I'd first like to start by talking a little bit about our expectations of scholars during the program. We expect active participation of scholars in all of the classes, the tutorials, and also the extra activities which are scheduled through the program. What does this mean? Active participation is defined by Georgetown as attendance, Monday through Friday, here on campus in downtown DC. As you'll see, the classes and other academic activities run from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock. And so the expectation is that scholars are present here on campus 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. This really is like a full-time job. We also expect that scholars participate in activities, whether these are in-class activities or activities that are assigned as homework. And we do expect completion of assigned tasks and meet the deadlines for these tasks. I'd also like to note here that yes, there is homework, and there is considerable homework that scholars are expected to complete in the evenings and also over the weekend. So it is not the case that once scholars leave campus at 5 o'clock, they're done for the rest of the day. But their expectation is to have homework to complete as well. Okay, next slide, please. So to get into a little more detail, I'd like to share with you information about the courses that the program offers. As a reminder, our curriculum really focuses on the communication skills and the professional skills that are needed in federal government positions. And to do this, we have the intensive program, which runs from January through June, and then the part-time online program, which runs from July through August. In the intensive program for 6 months, you will be taking 4 courses throughout the entire 6 months. You can see here the courses: reading and writing for professionals, professional oral communications, news analysis, and career skills development. In the reading and writing classes, you will learn how to write reports, analytical briefings, and do research that allows you to draw sound analytic conclusions. In the professional oral communications course, you will be making presentations on a daily basis, and often these presentations are recorded so that both you and the instructors can review them to give feedback on areas of strength and areas for improvement. Indeed, by the end of the intensive program, scholars are able to deliver incredibly professional and polished oral presentations, both in terms of the delivery and also using PowerPoint presentations to help support this. In the news analysis course, scholars are assigned to read articles in the news and taught how to do critical analyses of the news and these articles. And so each scholar might, for example, report a news piece from their area around the world and be giving a presentation or a short analytic briefing to the entire class on any given day. The 4th course is the Career Skills Development course. In this course, scholars will be polishing professional skills that you'll be using in the federal workplace, and also getting guidance and practice on the job search process and how to be effective within that process. Through this course, scholars will become comfortable sending emails in English and will understand the appropriate format and protocol that is expected. Scholars will participate in meetings, have mock interviews, and also learn negotiation skills. By the time you have come to the end of June, you will have a beautifully polished resume and cover letters that can be adapted to be able to submit to future possible employers as part of your job applications. One thing I'd like to note is that for 3 of these classes, the first 3, we actually have 2 sections of the classes and 2 instructors, 1 instructor for each session. This is important to note because many of these courses have tutorials associated with them. And we have set the program up such that if you have 1 instructor for the class, you will be meeting with the other instructor for your tutorial in that class. Through the years, we have found that the 6-month intensive program is very beneficial for all of our scholars. But that's not all. We have incorporated an additional 2-month online component to the program that meets from July through August. While you are in the 6-month intensive program, you cannot work outside the program. In fact, you will sign an agreement not to work. It would really be very challenging, if not impossible, to hold a job during this time, even a part-time job, and to be able to successfully meet the demands of the program. You also may not be enrolled in another academic program during the intensive component of EHLS. However, during the part-time online 2-month program in the summer, you can work and you can find a job and be taking this component of the program from other locations in the US. You are not required to be in the Washington, D.C. area. During the part-time program, you will be enrolled in 2 classes, an analytical writing class and a career skills development class. And both of these classes are a continuation of the work that you have already begun and started in the intensive component of the program. Okay. Next slide, please. I'd like to share with you what a sample schedule might look like for a day. Here you can see, starting at 9, going until 5:30, there are a lot of different activities that are going on within the program, both in terms of classes and also in terms of tutorials that are scheduled each day. So it truly is a very busy day from Monday through Friday. Next slide, please. Another helpful demonstration or visual to share with you is a sample of what each week might look like here. This is a sample weekly schedule, and here you can see the different layout of the classes from Monday through Friday. Starting Mondays at 10:10, scholars would take the professional oral communications course, and this shows up in kind of a purple-ish color here on the screen. This class meets Monday through Thursday from 10:10 until 12. Then there's a short lunch break. After lunch on Monday through Thursday, scholars will take the reading and writing class, which shows up in green. This class is also almost 2 hours a day from Monday through Thursday. At the end of the day, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, scholars will take the news analysis class, which shows up as a grayish brown color here. The 4th class, Career Skills Development, has 2 components to it. The first component is the Career Skills Development class, which meets once a week on Wednesdays, Wednesday afternoon. And the second component of this is the Intro to Federal Government class, also called the Guest Speakers class. Every Friday morning, scholars will have the opportunity to be visited by a representative from a federal agency who is there to talk with scholars, give a presentation to share more information about their agency, the types of positions that their agency may have, and to answer scholar questions about their agency. And this representative may also provide some specific information about any unique application processes, procedures for their agency. You can also see that there is a lot of time on this weekly schedule that has a bluish color to it, but does not have a class associated with it. This is the time when all of the individual tutorials are scheduled. Each week, scholars will have 3 one-on-one tutorials with an instructor in addition to the regular class schedule. Scholars will have a 30-minute reading and writing tutorial, a 30-minute career skills development tutorial, and also a 1-hour professional oral communication skills tutorial each week, in addition to the classes. These tutorials will be scheduled at different times during the blue highlighted areas on this chart. But we always encourage scholars to please plan to be on campus from 9 until 5 each day. Even if you don't have a tutorial scheduled first thing in the morning, this is a wonderful time to come to campus and to be working on your assigned activities. Right. Next slide, please. I'd now like to take a few moments to talk about the Open Source Analysis Project, or OSAP, as we refer to it. This project is really the capstone of the intensive component of the program. As such, it happens at the end of June each year. This is an opportunity for EHLS scholars to show off their knowledge and skills. Starting at the end of February, scholars will be working with a federal agency mentor on a topic provided by the federal agency mentor that is specifically focusing on areas that the scholar has language and educational and perhaps professional expertise in. Perhaps the mentor is an expert in your area of the world, but does not have the native language capacity and the cultural background knowledge that you as a native speaker might have. You would be able to provide that knowledge in doing research on that topic and would be an incredibly valuable asset. You would be doing the research on the topic in your native language, the language that you used for testing into the program, and in English, and perhaps other languages that you may have some familiarity with. So, for example, past scholars from the Maghreb area have done their research in Arabic, French, and Tamashek. Many scholars get offers for employment as a result of their OSAP research and presentation. As I mentioned, this is the capstone of the intensive portion of the program. And so this culminates in scholars delivering a formal oral presentation and also creating a written analytic briefing representing their research findings and analysis of their topic. Many scholars bring copies of their written report to the symposium presentations to share with interested members of the audience. And at times, after the symposium, scholars may be invited to give their presentations on site, on location, at many different federal agencies. Next slide, please. I wanted to conclude this part of the presentation by talking about some additional expectations that we have of scholars. And these expectations are based on characteristics that we have found over time of very successful scholars. The first area here is goals. It's very important that scholars have goals, both language learning goals and professional skills development goals. And it's important that these goals are realistic. This is an 8-month program, and the first 6 months are very intensive, but it's important to be realistic in terms of how much can be achieved within those 8 months. It's also important that scholars have a great deal of motivation for being in the program. The program is very intensive, and that intensity really increases in the preparation for the symposium presentations and final reports. And scholars who are very motivated, very driven, are those who are able to manage the intensity and really shine during these presentations. In addition, because of the intensity of the program, scholars really have to, in a sense, put other aspects of their life on hold. It's really a full-time opportunity for scholars, and having that motivation allows scholars to really focus 100% on the program. Successful scholars are also very open to independent learning outside of the classroom, being curious, asking questions, and being an independent learner, wanting to continue to learn and grow and develop both with language skills and also with professional skills. The program is structured to require a great deal of collaboration, working together. In the classroom, this could be pair work, group work. Outside of the classroom, there are larger projects that scholars are working on to really work collaboratively together, both with other scholars and with the instructors, to successfully complete the project, mirroring the requirements that are often assumed within the federal government positions. We also ask that scholars have a willingness to incorporate feedback. The instructors are all required to provide a great deal of feedback, individual feedback, to each scholar to help scholars understand their strengths and areas of challenge, to be able to continue to work on these areas and develop and improve over the course of the program. This only works if scholars are open to incorporate the feedback that they get, not just from the instructors, but also incorporate feedback from other scholars in the program. All right. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to share that information. And at this point, I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Kevin Gormley from Delanceo, who will talk more about the service requirement of the program. Dr. Gormley.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mutula. So in my role at Delanceo, I serve as the director of the EHLS program for the Department of Defense. So it's on behalf of the Department of Defense that I describe the federal service requirement that comes with the scholarship. Let me give you a little bit of background, then I'll go into my presentation. So included in the legislation to create the EHLS program, Congress also created the federal service requirement in exchange for providing all tuition fees, a living stipend, and all the supports that Dr. Mutula just described that are included in participating in the EHLS program. So the EHLS service requirement has a 1-year term. That means you have 1 year of full-time service after you complete the EHLS program. You can begin that service anytime within 3 years of graduating from the program. Next slide. We have 3 broad tiers of service listed here in descending order of preference. Tier 1 is with the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, state, including USAID, and the intelligence community. Any position within these organizations can fulfill the service requirement. Tier 2 is working in the greater federal government. These positions are looked at on an individual basis to determine if they're related to national security. For Tier 3, if you're not able to find a position in the federal government related to national security, you can work in the U.S. higher education or other educational opportunities related to your NCEP study. So in this case, it would be related to your native language or that particular region of the world. Next slide, please. Tier 1 includes our 4 priority areas. EHLS scholars are required to begin your job search within these departments. Any civilian or foreign service position within these departments will count towards your requirement. They don't necessarily need to be language-enabled positions. Scholars work in diverse fields, including cyber, finance, acquisitions, in addition to foreign affairs. We encourage you to think broadly about where you may be able to apply your skills. Please note, as far as the State Department is concerned, we are not a stepping stone to a foreign service officer position. The State Department is mainly interested in EHLS scholars to fill language instructor positions at the Foreign Service Institute. This is where most of our scholars land at the State Department. Next slide, please. Here are a few examples of where EHLS scholars have worked. Really diverse positions ranging from language instructor to doing programmatic management, and intelligence work. The Department of State policy analyst position was an exclusive job opportunity, and we'll talk about that more in just a moment. Next slide. If you're unable to find a suitable position within Tier 1, you can then expand your job search to include positions in Tier 2, positions in the greater federal government with national security responsibilities. Some past scholars have found jobs in other agencies, but the position needed to have national security responsibility, and it was up to the scholar to make the case to NCEP. NCEP has a broad understanding of national security, including issues of population and migration, public health, diplomacy, and economic competitiveness. For example, we have a scholar who is fulfilling their service requirement at the Department of Commerce. Next slide, please. Here are other here's other eligible service areas that we want to bring to your attention as well. After finishing the EHLS program, you can look at internships within the federal government. There are our recent graduate programs. If you're recently graduated from a higher educational program, that could include the Presidential Management Fellows Program. You're also eligible to look for positions with federal contractors, and those can fall within Tier 1 or Tier 2. That said, any position with a federal contractor that you're interested in fulfilling your service requirement through, we do look at those on a case-by-case basis. You must make a good faith effort to find a position in Tier 1 or Tier 2. And keep in mind that volunteer work in any of these tiers can serve to count towards your service requirement. Next slide. Here's a few examples of federal government contractors where EHLS scholars have worked and where they've been able to fulfill their service requirement. You can see AECOM. They often have analysts looking at information for federal organizations. Organizations like Diplomatic Language Services provide language instruction to federal government agencies. And FHI 360 supports USAID on international development initiatives. Next slide, please. So here's the big question. Who finds this job for me? Yes. Well, it's going to be your responsibility to find a job that helps fulfill your service requirement. But here's the thing. We have a large team of people at Delencia who are behind you to help to support you through this process of fulfilling the service requirement. So you're not left on your own, and you have lots of support behind you to help you. Yes. In addition, there's the career skills class that Dr. Matula mentioned within the EHLS program. Career skills that you can consider are using online tools for a job search, and we'll talk about specific tools, evaluating positions, researching agencies, preparing targeted documents, honing individual skills. And I want to specifically mention what Dr. Bintula just mentioned about the Friday speaker series that we have. It's really an amazing asset to have, over a dozen federal agencies come and talk to you individually as a small cohort about opportunities that they'd love you to take advantage of in their agency. Next slide, please. I should have been prepared here. As we mentioned as well, there is the Friday speaker series, which I just mentioned within the program, where we have guest speakers from various federal agencies who come to the EHLS program to speak to you about job opportunities. And we at Dalencia work together with the instructors here at Georgetown University to find those federal agencies to come speak with you. Many of them are interested in hiring scholars in the EHLS program. And we have a relationship with a broad set of federal agencies and federal contractors who are interested in hiring EHLS scholars. This program exists for a reason. It exists because people like you are needed to help support national security. Next slide, please. After the EHLS program, again, you're not alone. You have Dalencia helping you. You'll have exclusive job opportunities and career advice that's available through a website portal where we have an entire set of information and opportunities for you to report your service that you fulfilled. We have exclusive career fairs at federal agencies. We have mentoring programs. We provide letters of certification that you can provide to potential employers that say you're a graduate of the EHLS program. You have special and specific hiring authorities that you can reference. We can review resumes and help you with cover letters. And we can provide career search consultations. We're doing that mostly by phone or by Zoom these days, but there might be opportunities in person as well. So let's talk briefly about the special hiring authorities that I just mentioned. NCEP's able to create exclusive jobs because of these hiring privileges that you have as a result of being an EHLS scholar. Essentially, these privileges allow government agencies to directly appoint someone to a position instead of having to publicly post a position on USA Jobs, which is the main portal where the federal government posts its job openings. This also grants agencies the ability to create positions through networking. The National Defense Authorization Act 2010, otherwise referred to as NDAA 10, is the same as Schedule A on the previous slide, except this authority allows you to be appointed into a permanent position after 2 years of continuous service. Schedule A will only last up to 4 years. Next slide, please. I also want to bring to your attention that while many jobs are here in the Washington, D.C. area, there are jobs all over the world where you can fulfill your service requirement. Now we've got some cities marked here where EHLS scholars have fulfilled their service requirement, but you could possibly work at a U.S. embassy or consulate office. You could work at a military base anywhere in the world. There's many opportunities of where you could work to fulfill your service requirement. Next slide, please. So I want to briefly talk about security clearances. And I noticed earlier that there was at least one question about security clearances. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's just go through the basics here, and then we can maybe address some specific questions you have in a bit. Many people ask, will I need to get a security clearance to obtain a job working in the federal government? First, you don't have to have a security clearance before you apply for a job. Not all jobs require a security clearance. All jobs in the federal government do require a basic background check, but you'll see that in the job posting if the position requires a security clearance. There are three different levels of in the security clearance process. There's three different levels. There's confidential, secret, and top secret. Keep in mind that it's only the federal government that can provide a clearance and adjudicates and finalizes the process of awarding a security clearance. Applicants do not need a security clearance before starting the program. The EHLS does not give participants security clearances. The security clearance process is handled by agencies in the hiring process. Let me rephrase that, or let me state that again. The security clearance process is handled by agencies during the hiring process. Your security clearance can take several months, and depending on your background, possibly over a year. Some of the things they'll look at is residency, education, foreign connections, and your finances. Also, while illegal drug use is looked at, it depends on how long it's been and what's involved. That you can ask the organization that has the position description more details if you're interested after you finish the EHLS program. And also, this is a topic that's also brought up during the Friday Speaker Series visits. While you're abroad, you cannot be applying for positions that require a security claim. So you have to postpone. It doesn't mean that you have that you can't initiate the process, but you can't continue communication while you're abroad. We also ask that you not initiate any kind of process or communications related to a position while you're overseas. We have many EHLS scholars who take a break after they've completed the program, and they may go visit family or something like that. So that's why we mentioned this issue. For more information, see EHLS security clearance information on our website, or you can consult the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency website. Next slide, please. Finally, let's talk about how to be successful and a competitive applicant in the EHLS program. Dr. Matula gave you some insights on motivation and other factors that can help you improve the quality of your application. I have a few ideas here as well. The goal of the EHLS program is to train advanced English speakers to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. So what we want you to do is describe your long-term commitment to public service. And the question that you're going to find in the application is, how do you plan on fulfilling the service requirements? Treat this essay question almost like you're applying for a job. Be specific about which positions you would pursue to fulfill your requirement. Instead of providing vague overviews of these positions, for example, foreign service, research how your EHLS experience will build your skills for a specific position and why you would be a good fit. Just some thoughts there. Next slide. I mentioned earlier that I was going to reference a few websites, and these you will work in looking in more detail in these websites during the EHLS program. But here are a few search engines that you might consider looking at as you're beginning the process of researching how you will respond to the essay question, and look at these specific jobs that you might be interested in. So that's all from me, and I will turn things back over to Ms. Reckford.
Thank you. Finishing our presentation to encourage you to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have a newsletter as well. This is where we let you know about events like this one, virtual events, but also in-person events. So we really encourage you to stay in touch. Here are our upcoming virtual events. So we have kind of a three-part webinar series, today's webinar, but also the general information webinar and the applying to EHLS webinar that I really recommend attending because they cover complementary pieces of information to really get ready to prepare a successful application. And then our Q&A sessions, we have special guests, alumni who come and talk about their experience. And this is also a good space for you to ask us questions. And it's always helpful, I think, to attend these and see what other people are asking, and that can be helpful for you. So you could find information on how to register to these on our website. Here's our contact information. So you can contact Maria Mariani at Georgetown University for any questions on the EHLS curriculum, the schedule, and Georgetown facilities. You can contact me, Matilda, for any questions on scheduling your OPI and language testing. And you can contact our colleague Meredith Shoemaker at the Institute of International Education for any questions related to the application system, references, transcript evaluations, those types of questions. Of course, if you reach out to any of us, we can reroute you and make sure your question gets answered. And I think we have, a few minutes for questions, and I think there are a few in the Q&A. Let's see. There was a question maybe for Dr. Gormley about what will happen if you can't find a position within 3 years.
Thank you very much for the question. So what I like to tell, and what I tell EHLS scholars, the new cohort each year, as I'm talking to them about the service requirement, we provide an in-depth presentation about the same topic at the beginning of the program each January, and then again in late June as they're about to hit the ground running. And what I tell them is they have to work really hard to not fulfill the service requirement. It takes hard work to not do it because we provide so much support. And you'll see that when you get into the program. We'll show you both in front of the curtain stuff that happens. You'll meet federal agencies, you'll meet some of our staff who support you, and then we'll describe all the behind the curtain stuff, all of the activity that goes on in terms of our advocacy work that we're doing on your behalf, and to create opportunities for you to contact agencies that are already interested in you. So the likelihood of not fulfilling your service requirement is infinitesimal. It's so small. So we've created the program. Excuse me for my indirect answer, but it's an important question, and I want to give it fair justice. We've created the application process in a way to ensure that the right people get into the program so that, one, they can succeed in the program at Georgetown University, and two, they can succeed in the job search process. So if you get into the EHLS program, and I hope you do, please apply. And we're here to support you in your application process, and we're definitely here to support you if you get into the program so you can fulfill the service requirement. So we've designed the program for you to succeed. And I was telling a colleague about this, one of the EHLS scholars, about this today. One thing that the Department of Defense does well is we do training really well. That's one thing that the Department of Defense is really good at. Because you think of military personnel, their training is very important and the stakes are very high. And as a result of that, that ethos goes into all Department of Defense training that we have, and including the EHLS program. So we do our job really well. We will prepare you very well. Georgetown does a magnificent job, and they put together a fantastic program. They've got instructors, world-class instructors that are walking alongside you through this program. So that is an indirect answer to your question. Now, a more direct answer to your question, you have 3 years to begin fulfilling your service requirements. So you graduate in August we're right now we're talking about the class of 2025. You'll graduate in August 2025. So you'll have until August 2028 to begin fulfilling your service requirements. Now, if it doesn't occur, if you don't start in a position that can start where you can start earning credit towards your service requirement within those 3-year windows, within that 3-year window, you can request an extension. And we'll talk about this in more detail at some of the other webinars. There are opportunities for extensions, and there's also opportunities for deferrals. If, for example, you decide to go back to school full time or more than part time, I believe that's the requirement. If you decide to go back to school more than part time, then you can get a deferral on your service requirement. In other words, stop the clock, and you can continue with your education. And once you graduate, we can start the clock back up, and you proceed with working towards fulfilling your service requirement. So there are we do work with you within those first 3 years. The chances that you will find something in those first 3 years are very, very high, and we will work with you to make sure that you will succeed. I welcome any follow-up questions to that if you wish. Matilda?
Yeah, there's a question. I don't have the answer to that, but maybe you do on what type of jobs were available in Anaheim. That was one of the example cities, but maybe if you have just a general idea of what types of jobs may not be in the DC area.
Right. There's basically any class of job outside of the DC area. I believe about 20% of federal government jobs are in the DC area. That means 80% of the federal jobs associated with federal service are outside of the Washington, DC area. There is a very large federal footprint within California. I don't know of specific agencies in Anaheim. I would bet that there are opportunities in Anaheim, but I don't know of anything specifically. But we also encourage you to think broadly and think more flexibly. I think this is one factor that we'll talk with you about in more detail, is the more flexible you are, the greater the opportunity for you to find that dream job and to fulfill the service requirement.
Thanks. And then we have a question on, would a border control and protection officer in an airport fulfill the requirement?
So those positions are with the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Homeland Security is a tier 1 organization based on that description I provided of the service requirement.
Awesome. Do we have EHLS Scholar entry-level salary information after graduation? Is this program better for young people or mid-career people?
It's a great question. We actually just recently did a survey. Unfortunately, the survey response was really small. So I can't really provide, but our question, and this came from my director was curious, what where when EHLS scholars start their first position after graduating from the program, what are those positions paying? And it was a pretty broad range. Some were entry level, some were more mid level. So they're not just entry level positions. And that kind of speaks to the type of people that come into the program. The program's very diverse. Dr. Mutula can tell you more about this more broadly, about the broad array of people who come into the program. Dr. Mutula?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Gormley. Yeah, I can really say that every year in the program, we have a wide diversity of scholars in the program, and that includes diversity in terms of age. We have scholars coming into the program who have just completed a bachelor's degree. We also have scholars coming into the program who are mid or even later career professionals who, for various reasons, are looking to change their career to be working within the federal government. These include individuals up into their late 60s, early 70s. So, the program is specifically designed to be able to work with all of these individuals, regardless of, where they're coming from in terms of background, whether that be age or education or any of these other areas, to help each individual improve his or her own skills to fulfill the needs of the program. So it's, I can't really say that the program is better for one specific age group or another in that sense.
Thank you. And then
I
we have
did
a
hear,
question. Sorry.
just really quick, I did in the Friday Speaker Series today, the federal agency that presented said that they typically, with no experience, somebody with a bachelor's degree may um, begin in the GS7 range. Somebody with a master's degree may begin at a GS9 range, and somebody with a PhD may begin in the GS11 range. That's with no background, no language skills. These are kind of starting levels. And that was for this specific agency. So, but that just gives you a kind of a perspective there.
Yeah, we have a section on our website, Working for the Government, which is where you can find the security clearance document that Dr. Gormley mentioned, and also information on GS levels. And then there's a question on whether the asylum officer position would fulfill the requirement. I want to say yes, just because our alumni who we've had on our live Q&A series said that they were asylum officers. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I want to thank everybody. I apologize, but I need to go to another event. So I wish you all the best. Please apply. And uh, Ms. Reckford, Dr. Matula, feel free to continue answering the Q&A for a few more minutes if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. We
you.
really appreciate your words. So knowing more than two languages would not necessarily increase chances of being admitted, but mention it absolutely in your essay. It's essays like one of our alumni said in one of our Q&As said is where you should show off. And yeah, show off that you know more than two foreign languages absolutely in your application essay. And then would you recommend developing higher professional language capabilities in your heritage language before applying to the EHLS program? I don't know, Dr. Matula, if you have advice on that.
Sure. I can, in general terms, I know that individuals who do have higher, including professional level proficiencies in the heritage language, are able to really do much more detailed, intricate work on the OSAP project in terms of being able to, analyze documents, read documents. And so that additional level of depth and analysis with the OSAP project really puts the scholar in a wonderful position to be able to demonstrate that both through the presentation of the research work and also the final paper, which, as I mentioned, oftentimes the people in the audience and the readers of that paper are in positions of being able to hire individuals. So I think it is definitely beneficial to have higher proficiency levels in one's heritage language.
Yeah, and I would add, if you're kind of unsure whether you should wait to apply, I think it's worth trying this year anyways, because getting familiar with the process can help you with your application in the future if this doesn't end up being the right year for you, and it gets you experience with the testing portion of the application process, which is very valuable. And then there's a question on the OSAP, whether we present in the foreign language or English.
Good question. Thank you. The presentation is in English and the written paper is also in English.
Thank you. And then the essays, should they be written according to the standards expected by universities? I wonder if this is for the application essays. If so, we have selection criteria on our website that you could look at on how they should be written. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, no, I'd say the instructions on the website are providing a great resource for how those essays should be written.
So we are over our time, unfortunately, but definitely I understand, like, towards the end of a presentation is when you can think of more questions, and maybe after this webinar ends, you'll probably have more questions. So feel free to reach out. You could email us. You can use those phone numbers in the contact slide of this presentation on the website as well. And we'll be happy to help. So again, thank you, Dr. Mutula, for your great presentation. And yeah, we hope you all apply. And yeah, I wish you a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.